I may be able to fix them quickly. I just wanted to make sure I got this done first. Okay. And just give me 1 second. I'm going to send this link to Amarin. So many steps. Okay. That's done.
Just so you guys know, we do have an attendee now.
Thanks. I'm going to go off video and fix the PowerPoint and come back on just a couple minutes. Okay. Welcome to the meeting, everyone. My name is Jenna Teeters. We have people joining as we speak, and we'll get started in just about 5 minutes. Thank you. Welcome to those of you that just signed in. This is our 1 minute bell. We're going to give people another couple of minutes to log in, and we'll start the roadshow in just a couple of minutes. Thanks. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everyone to this virtual session. My name is Jenna Teeters, Director of Marketing here at ARCOS, and it's great to see you on the line today. So, I'm really glad you're able to join us for what I think is going to be a very unique interactive experience. For those of you who participated in the first round, I hope it was beneficial to you. And I know that some of you received your care packages. We did have a shipping issue this week, so hopefully you've received your care packages with your sign and your gift card. If you didn't, I have an alternative option, so we can work with that. Obviously, typically we do these mini conferences in the summer and in person, and while we wish we could have kept our schedule, I don't have to tell you that COVID has put a bit of a damper on everyone's travel this year and meeting plans. So despite that, we are looking forward to seeing everyone's faces and connecting with you all in a new way today. So to enjoy this session to its fullest potential, you need about 3 things. 1, a laptop. 2, a smartphone, tablet, or second screen. And then 3, your hand signs with the thumbs up, thumbs down if you have them. We have an alternative version as well if you did not receive it due to the shipping issue. If you don't have a second screen, totally fine. I just suggest you have a second tab open if possible. So for those of you new to Zoom, or if you just need a refresher, the mute button and arrows allow you to turn your microphone on and off. And that's also where you have your speaker options. The start video button is how you share your webcam. And if you click the arrow next to it, you can choose camera options and use a virtual background. And if you click participants, you can use it to see who is on the call, but also take note of the raise hand button. If you have a question or need to stop and clarify or would like to make a comment, you can use that or just raise your hand on camera. You can also change your username by hovering over your name and clicking rename. If you could please take a moment to do that and put your first name and last name, that would be great. We have a couple of repeats today, I believe. The Q&A button on this webinar will be used for technical questions only. In just a moment, I'll show you the new fun technology we'll be using for interactive product questions and comments. But if you're having trouble logging in or sharing your camera, please use that Q&A button. And Jonathan on our team is monitoring those for help. So also, if you don't mind, please turn your camera on as we and your fellow peers see your wonderful faces and allow for participation with the signs or thumbs up and thumbs down, which we'll explain more in just a moment. So this year, to encourage new ways to interact during these roadshows, we've deployed a new interactive software to help determine topics for the roundtable portion and allow you to comment and ask questions during the session. You can use the QR code here to join on your phone, or the website listed here with the meeting ID 14263 if you have another monitor. So this will take you to the live Q&A screen, and you can feel free to submit questions or just comment on the content throughout or to others during the presentation. And we will make time for a few questions at the end. And if we don't get to them live, we'll follow up with an answer within 24 hours. So if everyone could please do this now, log into Slido, and if you have any technical issues, submit them through that Q&A on the Zoom platform so that Jonathan can help. In addition to Slido, we have sent you some props for the roundtable, or if you've attended the past ones, you should have 2 or 3 lying around as well. I know, like I mentioned, that we had a shipping issue. So if you just want to turn your camera on, use thumbs up, thumbs down if you don't have your hand sign this week. But I'd like to do a practice round if we could. All right, I'm looking at everyone's camera. We only have a couple people on. There we go, thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm going to say practice round. Candy corn is delicious. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs up, Pauline. Nice, Mike. Yes. All right, great. Everyone likes candy corn here. All right. That's awesome. All right, great. So what we'll do from here is get started. So I want everyone to get to know each other so that we can start the discussion. I'm going to call on each one of you. And if you please just state your name, your title, what you're responsible for, your utility, of course, and what ARCOS solutions you use, if any. And again, if you can, turn your cameras on, please. That would be great just for interactivity today. So looking at my video screen here, it looks like Stephanie, you're up first.
Good morning, everybody. Or afternoon. I apologize. My dog is not cooperating with the fact that I'm on a call right now. I'm sure we have coworkers that are doing that for everybody. So I'm Stephanie Mormon. I'm from First Energy, and I live in Ohio, but First Energy is across a few states here. In terms of the ARCOS products, we have currently implemented call out. We also use SOS in the mobile app. We are in the process of going live with Crew Manager, Resource Assist, and Incident Manager here in the coming weeks. So very soon. And we will also be implementing SMART, but that will not be until first quarter of next year.
Okay, great. Thank you. Pauline, you're up next.
My name is Pauline Glasper. I'm a power delivery specialist with Alabama Power in the state of Alabama. Currently, we are using Call Out and the mobile app.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Chris Dye.
Good morning. My name is Chris Dye. I am the Business Operations Manager for Delco Water. We are a private nonprofit water utility in Central Ohio. We do not use ARCOS for anything yet. This is my first webinar with them, and I'm going to learn what it's all about.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Mike Lewis. Ooh, looks like he might be on mute.
Yeah, Jenna, he just chatted that he had to step off for another call, so maybe we'll skip him.
No problem. And David, you're up next.
Hey, good morning, Jenna. Dave Poneland from UPCO, Upper Peninsula Power Company in Michigan. If you're familiar with Michigan, you got the mitten and you got the part that's north of the mitten, and that's where we are. We currently are using ARCOS Mobile as well as Callout. That's it for as far as the ARCOS platform. Just trying to, again, I've been on a couple of these, just trying to get a handle on what people are doing, how people are using the product, hopefully get a game plan together going forward for us.
Great, thank you so much. And then Elijah.
Good morning, Elijah Nine with First Energy. I'm an analyst in our work management systems department. Stephanie kind of already talked how we're using the suite. So yeah, I'm on this one and I think one other one, and you'll have to forgive me. I'm having some work done at my apartment, so my camera will not be on for this one, but the next session, absolutely. Thank you.
Sure, thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right. So what I'd like to do is get back to our Slido here. And if you haven't joined already, please join in Slido here with the QR code or at slido.com with the code 14263. And I'd like you to switch to the polls section of Slido. And what we have with that is we'd like to, there's some instructions here. Oh, just one moment, lost my screen. Oh, sorry about that, everyone. Okay, so this is a word cloud. And what you do is you enter 1 to 2 answers to this question, which is what is your biggest challenge when planning or acquiring resources for an emergency? And after that, after you submit an answer, you can see other answers. So if you'd like to agree with another answer, start typing in that answer and it will auto-populate, and then you can submit. So as more answers get resubmits, if you will, the phrase or word will get bigger in the word cloud, and the top 3 biggest challenges or words will be our topics for the roundtable. Okay, I see a couple answers coming in. Oh, yep. Some are already growing. And if anyone has any questions or is having trouble, just unmute yourself. You can ask me. Happy to help. Oh, I see some more coming in. Just gonna check on our chat here. Great, I'll just give everyone a couple of minutes. We do have at least one person from Ameren watching on YouTube Live because they don't have access to Zoom. And so there's a like 10 to 15 second lag. So I'm just gonna give them a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to add these topics into our PowerPoint so we can discuss. Okay, a lot of these. All right, well, looks like we have 3 big topics that popped up. Communication being one, lodging being the second, and contractor management being the third. So what we're gonna do is, for each topic, I'm gonna give you a couple minutes. Think of a way your company is managing this successfully, or a process or area of this topic that you're struggling with, and how you're using ARCOS or other technologies to help with this. And after that, we're going to ask for volunteers to share. You can use the hand signs, thumbs up if you'd like to share, in your camera. I am going to call on people, so just be ready for that. This is meant to be if things get quiet, I mean, this is meant to be a very interactive topic. And we also have a couple of people joining a little bit late today. I was just checking my messages, and I think we have a couple utilities joining a little bit late today as well. So don't be surprised if they pop in a few minutes. And then if you're using ARCOS, just for those of you on the call that have ARCOS or don't have ARCOS, if you're using ARCOS for some of this, please share how, so that we can share your experiences as well. Okay. Great. Looks like we've had a couple people join in as well. All right, so first, communication. What is one of the biggest challenges when you're acquiring and planning for resources regarding communication? Does anyone want to share first? I'm going to call on people if they don't share first.
Jenna, it's Kyra.
Hi.
Hi. It's really getting everyone on the same page and figuring out actually, what you need for resources, depending on what the other utilities are going through. So we are living that situation right now as we speak, as we try to plan for a uncertain forecast with all the way from 0.3 of an inch of ice up to 20 inches of snow. No, I'm not being sarcastic. I'm actually, that's what they're saying in the forecast. So it's trying to get everyone on the same page and bring everyone together so you know what you have for resources and what you need to acquire for resources. So that is our biggest challenge. Without the use of resource assist, we struggle. So if we can purchase resource assist, I know that would be beneficial for us.
Okay, great. So really that visibility for all parties involved sounds like a big challenge.
Exactly. And the fact
Great.
that today we are not utilizing crew manager for contractors day to day.
Mhm.
So I know I'm jumping down to bullet 3, but it took us all morning to figure out what we have on system for contractors.
Right. So that visibility of just all your
Exactly.
resources, internal and external. Okay. Anyone wanna, yep, Stephanie?
Yeah, I'm just gonna piggyback on what Kyra was saying. You know, as I mentioned before, we have not implemented Resource Assist yet, but we're going to be doing that literally within the month. We'll be turning that on, and we're hopeful that that is going to help a lot with this communication. One thing that we are still kind of evaluating at this point is because First Energy is a very large, utility. We have 10 regulated operating companies that work for us. And so First Energy is the parent company, but we're spread across 5 states. And my team in the mutual assistance group corporately manages all the resource requests for, anytime we're bringing in external folks. So if it's through the mutual assistance calls, which I just got one for SEE for the South again, another Hurricane Zeta. So whether it's through that organization or we're just reaching off for any off-system contractors to bring on board, that's all coordinated through our group. And that's one thing that I think we're still going to struggle with once we get Resource Assist and Crew Manager in place, is understanding from each of our 10 operating companies what their needs are and how we can pull that up corporately and summarize it at a higher level so that we know what we're going after. Mm-hmm. So that's something that we're looking at. I think it's called Planner, that resource planner. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Okay. So that's something that we're going to look into. We just haven't done it yet. But like Kyra mentioned, we've had a lot of conversations in the last couple of months with our contractors, bringing them on board, doing some onboarding and for what Resource Assist is going to be, how the process is going to work. And we're really hoping that that's going to help us with some of those communication issues that we've had in the past with just people not being on the same page.
Okay. Paulin, I will ask you, because I know Alabama Power is obviously part of Southern Company. Do you have some of those same challenges when you're working with the other groups within Southern Company?
Well, my main focus is power delivery with the field personnel.
Yep.
So at a higher level, I know that is handled in another department and they use another application. However, I know, and I'm really interested in Crew Manager and how it's used to help our resources better. But the limited knowledge that I do know about it, the issue is gathering all the information and getting it input in these spreadsheets that they use in a timely manner. And then they have to filter that information out, of course, to our control centers, to the operators and other personnel who is actually dispatching trouble. So I would believe the limited knowledge that I've seen of Crew Manager or Resource Assist, that could be very useful. And so that's really why I'm on this panel, to learn more information about how that can be effective and useful to our company. That's
great. And we do have Kyra's a power user of Crew Manager, and then Stephanie will be as soon as they get rolled out. I know she's done a lot of networking with the Crew Manager power users to understand how it's going to work for First Energy. So that's great. David, I'm curious to know what's a struggle for you with communication when you're planning for or acquiring resources, and how do you combat that today?
Well, typically in the Upper Peninsula, we're kind of at the end of the earth. So getting folks up, and folks in the southern part of the country might feel the same way. The heartland, maybe not, but getting folks to come to our area, especially now with snow on the ground already in October before Halloween, has proven to be challenging. Our communication, we're a smaller company, so generally speaking, when we bring people on site, it's not hundreds of crews, it's 4 or 5. So communication in that respect really isn't that big of a deal for us. I'm the one, I put lodging on there. It sounds like other people did as well. That is our biggest challenge, because if there's any type of tourism up here, i.e., color gawkers or snowmobilers, or even if one of the colleges is graduating, we have two colleges up here, Michigan Tech and Northern Michigan. That puts such a strain on lodging resources that sometimes we have to put folks 70, 80 miles away from where the trouble is. Well, you put that on windshield time in a 16-hour day, you really cut things down considerably. So communication at that point is integral, knowing who's coming on, who's coming off, trying to stagger that, and just manage the fleet and get the meters back on and the lights.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for sharing. Elijah, what, in your perspective, what's the hardest challenge with communicating during an event where you're bringing in different crews, maybe mutual assistants, maybe contractors, and what's the communication barrier? Do you feel like everyone speaks the same language as far as, terminology?
I don't know if Elijah, I know he sent me a text and he said that the landlord was showing up at his house, so he may have stepped away for just a moment. So
No
I think
problem.
we may have to skip him for now.
That's okay. I'll throw that question to the group. Do you feel like communication by way of common terminology is a challenge, or when you're speaking with mutual assistance crews or bringing in additional resources? Is that typically a challenge at times, especially when you're talking about rosters?
Challenge every day, Jenna. So the biggest challenge is what's a crew, right? So a crew to me is 2 people in a bucket or a digger. A crew to another contractor, maybe 3 people in one bucket.
Right.
Or digger.
And so
every day.
Yeah. Okay. Pauline, I saw you unmuted. Oh, I thought you wanted to add to the discussion. Sorry.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. All right. Well, let's another I guess, Stephanie, as you're thinking about rolling out Resource Assist, when you think about that challenge, the terminology challenge, have you predefined those things for ARCOS so that your contractors have to follow them?
We have, yeah. We've identified through the creation of resource groups within Resource Assist, we are pretty much training all of our contractors to create a specific template for us, and that's going to be their crew template. So based on the type of resources that they're going to provide, we have different contractors, obviously, for forestry and hazard damage, distribution line crews. So we've internally kind of identified a resource group, and that's the crew template that we are going to tell our contractors that anytime you're working for First Energy, this is the crew template that you create. We've provided that for them, and we've developed a user guide that we drafted and have sent out to all of our contractors. And in the appendix, we talk about the resource types, which are the job classes. So the distribution line worker, what titles we want them to use for their folks, as well as the structure of the crew template. Now we validated that with a number of the contractors, to make sure that we're aligned. And there's a few things we've added, things like certain types of equipment, certain types of vehicles that they would typically bring as part of their crew. And we're agreeing to that template so that whenever they send us resources, it's going to fit that format. So we, in the training, we did some virtual training like this, we were on Teams and, did some virtual hands-on training with them. But we also created a number of training videos and we recorded them, and First Energy has a private YouTube channel that we can provide links to our contractors on how to access those training videos. And then that kind of walks them through setting their system up, loading their resources, and then that goes over the request process and how they would send us resources based on those templates that we provided.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that. Since this is a little bit of a smaller group today, and I have spoken with all of you, for David and Pauline's benefit, I just am curious to know, when you're planning for and acquiring these resources for crew manager specifically, how has that helped you communicate, and what are the gaps still? I don't know if Kyra or Stephanie, you can kind of talk about future vision, either one of you, if you don't mind sharing, for their benefit, since it's a small group and we can kind of tailor it a little bit today. Maybe. Quiet group.
Okay, can you, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Jenna, can I make you repeat that? I had to grab another call. Can you just repeat it, then I can answer it? We both
Sure. Sorry. Sorry. A little bit of a bottleneck here. I was just saying, since we have a smaller group today, and I've kind of talked with everyone who's on the call today, I was wondering, you know, David and Pauline are looking, you know, for additional ARCOS solutions and how they're used. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about crew manager specifically, and regarding communication and how it's helped you communicate more effectively to the field employees, and then what are the gaps still in that process?
Yeah, so for us, crew manager has helped our communication from a meals and lodging perspective specifically. So we have saved a lot of time. We don't call employees and give them their lodging and meal assignments. We don't email. We do that communication right through ARCOS. So internal and contractors are placed in crew manager for a storm event. We just did it this morning, and we will utilize the lodging functionality to add availability in booked rooms, which I have a team going through that now. They'll call all of our hotels, book the rooms they need. Later this afternoon, they will assign those rooms to contractors first, because we're bringing in contractors that need hotels, and then any internal movements, they'll assign hotels to internal folks. And that communication will come right out of crew manager. So where they are sleeping and where they are eating will be based off of the data in crew manager. So it's either an email, or a text message, whatever they've provided on their roster. So we communicate that out every day. So it's really automated. And if we cancel or move rooms, we communicate that out via ARCOS as well.
Great.
Hey, Kyra, this is Dave. How many crews are you talking about here? Are you talking 5 crews or 500 crews?
Well, for this event right now, they are working with 40 crews for this event, which is, since everyone is in their own room, that's about, they're booking 90 hotel rooms for that. But in my previous position, I have done it all the way up to thousands of crews. So in Eversource's one of their larger events, you know, 1,000, 2,000 crews that they are lodging in ARCOS. So I've seen both sides.
Yeah, and David, just to give you some background, Kyra worked for Eversource and recently, within the last year and a half or so, moved to New Hampshire Electric Co-op. So she's kind of getting experience on both sides with a smaller utility and a obviously large IOU. So that her a pretty good perspective on the scalability, I think. If you ever have any questions about that. So I do see some more people logged in. Mike, we got you back, looks like.
Yeah, sorry, had a quick call I had to take there, but I am back on.
That's all right. I just wanted to ask you, we're talking about communication challenges during resource planning and acquisition. And I'm just curious, off the top of your head, to put you on the spot, sorry about that, but if you have anything you'd like to add as far as what are your biggest challenges in communicating when there's an event, and how has either technology or process helped you handle that?
Well, I mean, I think you're hitting on the key piece right there. Communication is always a challenge when you're managing resources. Thinking about it a little bit sequentially, I think our first piece is getting the information in the first place. You know, of course, we're in the same mode that a lot of people are. We're starting off with something of a straw man, a stick man type of operation, just general numbers without having identities. Moving towards using Crew Manager in storms, which we're just about to launch that. We've been using Crew Manager in blue sky mode since 2016, I believe, but we're just about to start using it in storms. I think our mode of operation is, and I came in, sorry, Kyra, I came in kind of in the middle of what you were just talking about there, but I think it's a lot like what you were describing, where once we get everybody entered into Crew Manager, we start, well, really at the same time we're doing that, we're acquiring hotel rooms. And then once we get everybody in by name, then we start assigning rooms to individuals. I think one of the things that as far as challenges in that area, communicating directly back to people to let them know what their arrangements are. And I think Crew Manager itself offers the functionality that we're looking for in that regard, to be able to send direct emails out to individuals from systemically once we get the hotel assignments made. I think maybe one of our largest unresolved challenges at this point in time is how to manage changes. Once we have everybody in, we have hotel rooms assigned, of course, you know, we'd like to say all the information comes in and it's perfect and nobody ever has to make any adjustments or amendments, but we all know that doesn't happen. So being able to manage those changes, we're finding that to be a little bit problematic, but I think we're working through that and getting that in place as well.
Yeah, that's always been a challenge, at least for us. So everyone that I've ever spoken to, they think that everything's going to be automated and ARCOS is going to do it all. And while you can make that automation happen through email alerts when changes are made to crews and members, we do that, but we also still use the manual phone calls in some situations, right? So if it's a last minute change where I got this roster and I uploaded this roster, at 7 p.m. tonight, and then the lodging team made their hotel assignments at 7:30, and then I found out that there was a roster change at 8 o'clock. That would be a manual phone call still for us, just because it's so important. Other than that, they rely on email, and we've created a lot of badges, information. If I don't know how much detail, Jenna, you want me to get into, but
I mean, if people are finding, this helpful, I know some of you on the call here are rolling out Crew Manager. Mike, you've been using it, but you're transitioning it to a new area. Colin, you're looking at it just to see how it could benefit your crews, and David as well. So, I mean, you can get into the detail if you'd like. We have time.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. So I'll talk about, to that point, right? So changes or crew movements, right? So I don't know how, the other utilities are structured, but we have a group that just handles resources and crew movements, and then we have another group that handles logistics. So we have built automated stuff within Crew Manager to flag a crew if where their lodging assignment is, if that work center or, you know, so the closest utility reporting location, work center or district, if that lodging district does not match the district that they're working in, flag the crew. And that gives the resource team and the logistics team awareness by just looking at ARCOS that they need to take action on that crew.
Okay.
But I'd like to add a thought to that, Kyra. That's interesting. We were doing something very similar in our approach with crew managers' use in storms, and you mentioned creating badges. It seemed like for a while there that was our solution to everything that we ran in, every problem we ran into is we're going to create a new badge. So we kind of got that corralled. Actually, we are heavily using 3 badges though. One of them is the home OC, or where that crew is from, especially if it's an internal crew. Now that it works a little differently if it's an external crew. The second badge that we use is the assigned OC. That tells us what operating center we're putting that crew in to do its work. And you could do that by staging sites or, you know, any number of different ways that you could break that up. And then we created another badge called the end of day OC. And my responsibility as an operations person is to make sure that the assigned OC badge, of course, the home OC badge is always set. We always know where people are from. But my responsibility in operations is to make sure that the assigned OC and the end of day OC badges are kept correct. And instead of looking at the difference, the delta between assigned and end of day, our logistics people look at home OC and end of day OC. And if they're not going to be home at the end of the day, they start making lodging arrangements for that crew. So regardless of where their assigned OC is at, they're strictly looking at where are they going to be at the end of the day. And that's my way in operations of communicating to logistics, is by the use of that badge.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Any questions from the group before we move on? No? Okay. So I'd like to move on to the next topic. We did talk about lodging a little bit. I think I'm going to skip to contractor management. We'll come back to lodging since we already covered some of that. So for contractor management, let's think about both daily planned work and emergency. And what are some of the biggest hurdles when working with contractors on a daily basis or for an emergency, or from the transition of your daily contract crews to putting them into an emergency situation? Or is that a challenge, and requesting additional? What are the biggest hurdles to success there? Or is there a way you're doing it that's very successful for you? I'm going to start calling on people. David, how do you manage contractors?
Well, like I alluded to a little bit earlier, you know, our contractor involvement or our contractor management is typically a small scale thing. You know, when you're talking about Encore and Duke and, you know, the rest of the world here. But typically what we do, I'm not going to lie to you, is a big whiteboard with a marker and a spreadsheet, you know.
Yeah.
And it's worked for us. You know, we might have in the heat of the battle, we might have 10 contractor crews on site, or 15, say, tops. So that worked for us. Hey, you know, some of the other folks have mentioned 1,000 contractor crews. I could see that getting pretty hairy at that time. You know, trying to do it by pencil, paper, and Crayola crayon like we do. So, yeah, that's how we do it here. It seems to work, but you know, I'm always looking for ideas and suggestions and comments, and that's where these types of groups are helpful.
Good. I'm glad. Colin, I was curious if you're available. I saw you went off camera, but I just want to make sure you're available. Hi.
Hi.
I'm curious, obviously you have, you said power delivery. How do contractors play into your world and how are they managed if they are?
They're managed through spreadsheets.
Okay.
Someone inputting information on a laptop or computer to these spreadsheets and then passing that on into the different control centers. So I definitely can see where, one of these other resources that you all or solutions that you offer would be helpful if we can get everyone on the same page.
Mm-hmm. And is the main challenge there, is it the time that the manual process takes to get visibility on who's working where?
Yes, it's the time that it takes, and then actually that information filtering to the people who need it, like the operators, because the contractors might arrive on site, and actually having the information of the telephone numbers, the names, how the crews are set up. So yes, that can be one of the challenges.
Okay, great, thank you. Elijah, I don't know if you're available to talk yet or not, but I was just curious on your perspective if you're available. Doesn't look like it. Also, I'd like to welcome Rudon. He's from Duke. Thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
Yep, thanks. Just to get you caught up, we're talking about contractor management challenges on a daily and emergency basis and kind of that transition. So I won't put you on the spot yet, but I was wondering, Mike, if you'd mind sharing some of your challenges with contractor management and planning for upcoming events.
Sure. We typically, at any given point in time, we have between 100 and 200 contractor FTEs on our property. So as far as our on-property contractors are concerned, we pretty much treat them like our internals, with the exception that right now we are not putting them into crew manager on a daily basis. I think that will change in 2021. I think we're actually going to be asking them to manage themselves in crew manager and blue sky mode. For right now, as we move forward with implementing in storms, we're going to just import them through a spreadsheet roster. I think we are on the cusp of bringing in resource assist, though, to help us with that. So I think that'll be our next solution to bringing contractors into our events.
Okay, great. Thank you. Rudon, if you're available, I'm just curious to get Duke's perspective on contractor management, some of the challenges you have and some of the things maybe you're putting in place or things you've done, either process or technology, that have helped.
Yeah, so I think one part of contractor management that we've had some challenges with is having a number of folks that can actually kind of be field coordinators for those off-system crews, making sure that we've got people identified up front to actually fill that role, that have the right expertise in the field, understand the area that they're working in, and then being able to lead those crews. When it comes to actually, having the rosters and putting all that information together, I mean, right now we're still using ROD, and we're looking to move toward utilizing, crew manager for Red Sky, but we're really, quite honestly, just trying to get everyone familiar with it from a blue sky perspective first, and then being able to transition them to Red Sky during major events. So it seems like we could use the blue sky piece kind of more in a localized fashion, but if we're going to transition to major events, everybody's got to be up and running with crew managers so they can receive those rosters and know what to do with them. So kind of taking it one step at a time. That piece of implementation.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Mike, I'm going to put you on the spot just because you two are kind of in a similar position. Mike's in the process of taking crew manager from blue sky to gray sky, and working through that. When you're planning for resource acquisition or resource management, how do you foresee that helping you? And what are some of the ways you're working towards that?
How do we see crew manager helping us?
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a portion of crew manager that I'm not completely familiar with yet, and that's the stickman version of it, how to enter stick counts in. And I don't think I've seen that work through enough yet to really understand it. Right now, as we call on outside resources, we are using whiteboard technology in some locations still, or some ways, or just a simple spreadsheet to keep track of resources as we're lining them up. And I think really the place the crew manager comes into play for us mostly right now is when we get down to the individual level, where we have to know specifically what people are in our events, down to the crew number, the names, who's working for whom, things of that nature. But I'm looking forward to seeing more of the stick counts in crew manager. I think that at least in concept offers a real alternative to the whiteboard.
That's great. And actually, I know you can see his face right now, but we have Jason Singer on today. And after our roundtable portion, he's going to be showing a little bit of what that looks like. So you'll be able to see a little bit of it today.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I just want to welcome Jeff Placus from Pisag, Long Island. He just joined us. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, everybody. Sorry I joined late. Was on a mutual assist call.
Well, that works out. Yeah, we are just kind of discussing the challenges of contractor management and how, ARCOS can help with some of that. Today we have a little bit smaller group, so we kind of dived into some of the details of crew manager and talking about how that's used for lodging and contractor management and communication. So just to get you caught up.
Cool, thank you.
Yep. I do have a question for the group, and I'm going a little bit off script from our major topics because I feel like we have covered a lot of that today, and we have time, a little bit of time, few minutes for another topic. And this will segue nicely into Jason's portion, but when you're planning for how many resources you're going to need for an event, how are you doing that? Are you doing it with prediction models? Are you doing it with historical knowledge or knowledge from your senior employees? Are you, how are you doing that? And then how are you managing that process and communicating that? So if anyone wants to, or what are the challenges with that as well? If anyone wants to jump in.
Jenna, I'll leave this up to someone else in the group, but I just want to let you know that Stephanie is having computer issues, so she lost us and she's trying to call back in on our cell, but it doesn't seem to be working.
Okay. All right. Well, luckily we're recording this and she'll be able to see some people's comments, but thanks for letting me know. Mike, I saw you.
I'll jump on. I'll jump on this one. We just went through this, as a matter of fact. So we have a prediction, incident prediction system that we developed over time with a meteorological services company. One tool that we use. It's okay. It's not as accurate as we would like it. We'd like it to be a little bit better. But what we just did for this upcoming event that we're predicting, we've gone back in and we've looked at some analog storms in our history, basically over the last 3 years, see what those impacts were, got a range of incidents and customers interrupted, take a look at the wind gusts and sustained and the amount of rain and compare that to what's forecasted. And when you look at it, you kind of like get an idea of, all right, well, this is going to be a low end event, medium end, high end. Where does it fit within that line, that array of incidents? And that's what we just did this morning. So, and then, we give our assumptions to senior leadership and then they double it.
That's funny. And then I guess when you're planning for your resources, once you get that final number from senior leadership, how are you communicating that out right now? Is it visualized anywhere for people?
So for communicating it out internally?
Yes, yeah.
So it depends on, where are we looking? Yeah, if we're looking at the incidents, no, it stays within the incident planning team. So
Okay.
within the leadership of the incident.
Okay. All right, great. All right. And then I guess if anyone else wants to jump on that, if you're I'm gonna call maybe on, I know Mike, you unmuted, if you want to talk about resource planning, or maybe
just a couple of quick comments on that, Jenna. Yeah, Jeff, really interesting comments that you made there, especially on the leadership doubling. That seems like that's endemic to just about every utility, and that happens to us as well. But and another thing that you mentioned is the high, medium, low. I've often thought that every storm needs a rheostat that you could say, okay, this is a low intensity event. We probably don't have a lot of poles down, up to this looks like we've got a lot of poles in this event, so it's a much higher event, a much larger event. It's going to require more resources. Jenna, we'll say to your original question, we kind of use a rubric of numbers of orders per day, and multiply that out by the number of days we want the storm to be contained within, and that's really our resource number. But we're also developing analytics that will pull information directly from our OMS and even incorporate some things like tips that we get from customers about broken poles, to try to do a little bit better job of analyzing our OMS data and getting our resource counts from that. So far, the analytics are only at about, I'm going to say 70 to 80% accuracy. So we don't completely trust them yet, but we're trying to move from that SME perspective to a more analytical approach.
Yeah, great. Thank you. David, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm curious to know how you plan for how many resources you'll need if you get a big snowstorm coming in.
That's an interesting question. We usually shoot for the moon. The one gentleman said, take your estimate and double it. We usually send out an APB to every contractor we have in the area. And a lot of times, they're already working with other companies in Minnesota or Wisconsin. So it's basically a shotgun approach is what we say. Well, we reach out to everyone, and whatever anyone has to offer at that point, we'll take, certainly.
Okay.
But that's
great.
There's no scientific method. It's just that's how we do it.
Yeah. How about you, Kyra? How do you plan for? I know you did that probably today, just like Jeff. You two are dealing with a similar weather event. Maybe she's dealing with.
Yeah. Just this morning. So we have discussions with other utilities in the area as well as contractors. So we're a little bit different than what Jeff said. We basically, from an emergency preparedness department, really call the shots. So we really tell upper management what we think we should get, and they're just okay with it. So we got a bunch of crews this morning, and they just said okay.
Okay, great. Rudon, how about you? How do you plan for resources when you have an emergency event coming your way?
Yeah, we have a meteorological forecast tool that we use. It was an in-house program that was developed a couple years back, and that allows us to kind of do a pre-landfall forecast of what we believe would be the impacts in terms of events and customers out. And based on that, then we kind of adjust our resource projections based on what that tool puts out, and we've got some different weather data that we can utilize based on the type of storm, tropical storm, or if it's a high wind, or potential icing event, something of that nature. We can adjust some of those factors to be able to, make sure we try to refine the model to hopefully get it as accurate as possible to project what we would need. So that's
Okay,
kind
great.
of our basic process. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, thank you for your participation. I am going to move on a little bit only because we covered some of the topics that we got together in the word cloud today, but also because a lot of what you're talking about, Jason can kind of help frame up in the ARCOS platform, just to give you some updates on what has happened this year. And because of everything, obviously, on our roadmap, we had a lot of these items in place. Does anyone have any more challenges they'd like to throw out to the group, questions they'd like to throw out to the group? Any questions for those who are looking for maybe expansion of ARCOS and how they've done that before we move on? Nope. No questions? All right. Well, I'm going to hand it over to Jason Singer, and he is going to share all things resource planning and sharing with ARCOS for a few minutes. So Jason, I'll hand it over.
Great. Thanks, Jenna, and hopefully everyone can hear me okay. So again, I'm Jason Singer. My title is Director of Resource Management Services here at ARCOS, and I serve as the product manager for Crew Manager, Resource Assist, and Smart. So today I'm going to talk about ARCOS' strategies around resource planning, acquisition, and management. So it's been great to listen to all the dialogue that's been going on, and I'll try to weave some of those topics into what I'm going to go over today. And so I'll kind of start with the goal, keeping in mind that acquiring the right resources and getting them to work quickly and efficiently is the ultimate objective, and understanding that utilities are under enormous pressures to make all this happen. So the challenge around planning is, what are the right resources needed to get the work done? And this involves determining a lot of different things. How many resources are needed? What types of resources are needed? Do you need, specialty crews, specialty equipment, drones, etc.? Where are the resources needed? Especially for those folks with larger service territories, that's real important. Not just how many and what, but also the where. And then when are the resources needed? Are you going to bring them all in at once? Are you going to bring them in before the storm? Are you going to stage their arrival so you can handle the logistics? So there's a lot of, a lot of planning that goes into answering those questions. And one of the topics that Jenna brought up earlier is, how do different utilities plan all that? Obviously, there's your historical knowledge of the service territory, comparing it to past events. Those that have the more sophisticated meteorological damage prediction models. I'm sorry, Jenna, you can go still on the last slide. Using those, a formal damage prediction model. I know a lot of folks or utilities, some, they collaborate with a local university to put that together. If after the event's already hit and you have damage assessment data, that also helps you answer many of those questions, how many, what, and where the resources are needed. And then there's a lot of gut feel, a little bit art, a little bit of science as to how to bring in the right number of resources. And like Jeff said, come up with a number and then have management double it for you. And then one of the themes from earlier on that we heard is, communication as part of that process. Who do you share these numbers with? How do you keep other people in the loop? Do they know it's going to be a, forecasted to be a small storm or a major storm? So that communication, keeping all those other stakeholders in the loop is certainly important. So next slide, please. So once you have a feel for the numbers that are needed to plan for the event, ARCOS provides a solution, a place for all of that information to be captured, so it becomes part of the collaborative workspace. And this is the new ARCOS Resource Planner, which is in fact provided for free as part of the platform to all ARCOS customers. So those of you who haven't checked it out yet, if you work through your ARCOS account manager, you can learn more about getting it turned on and getting some resources to be able to implement it. So just to kind of walk through the resource planner for those of you who haven't heard about it or seen it yet, a resource plan is tied to an event, and it involves several different stages as the event progresses. The first stage is the requests, and it's entering those requests, those numbers that you've come up with from your knowledge or your damage prediction engine, and you're tying those requests by location, which is tied back to your levels 1 through 4 of your ARCOS hierarchy, and resource types. We utilized the standard resource types that are in the ramp up tool, line, transmission, damage assessment, vegetation, etc., as well as the ability to create some additional customized resource types. The goal there is to kind of keep the language, number of FTEs and resource types consistent with what's going on within ramp up and the mutual assistance groups. So after you enter your requests, the next step is to secure your commitments. So those who are using Resource Assist, we will be providing the ability to integrate with that for the commitments, but this is still that old-fashioned, if you're not using Resource Assist, you're reaching out to your contractors, to your other OPCOs, to your mutual aid responders, and just rounding up as many resources as you can. Then the next step is to allocate the resources that have been committed to where they've been requested. And you can't really see in the screenshot here, but Resource Planner keeps a running total of what's been requested, what's been committed, calculates the delta, so you can kind of see where gaps exist. Where are your requests outpacing your allocations? And so as you have a limited number of resources that you're applying against your resource requests, you can see how you're tracking. Then after the allocations are made and the gaps are analyzed, a new feature within Resource Planner, what we're calling, kind of referred to as stick counts, that's the ability to send allocated crews directly from the Resource Planner into Crew Manager. And it creates that crew as a stick count. And what we mean by a stick count, it's basically a placeholder, a crew without a roster. So what you know from the planner is basically the event, the resource type, the company that they're coming from, the count of FTEs, and the location that they're assigned to. So given that information, we can create a crew without any members in Crew Manager that is there in the system, so others can start planning lodging and logistics, meals, staging sites, knowing who's coming, when and where. And then as the rosters arrive, you're able to transition away from those stick count crews to real crews. And then the last part of Planner is the compare part, which allows you to compare what you've allocated to the actual values that are coming back from Crew Manager. So in Crew Manager, as you change your crew's location, or the number of personnel on that crew goes up or goes down, that information can be compared to what existed previously in the Resource Planner, so you can see how your allocated is comparing to your actuals. Next slide, Jenna. So that was the Resource Planner side of things. So simultaneously, within your organizations, as the resource plan is being established, you want to get the jump start on the process of acquiring resources. And it's one thing to know how many and what types of resources are needed, but it's another to actually go out and find them and bring them onto property, get them mobilized to the right places. And this is really where you need to be fast and efficient, because there's never enough resources to go around, especially when there's a large event and you're competing against other resources, against other utilities for a limited amount of resources. So depending on the size and the scope of the event, ARCOS provides several different areas that come to mobilizing and procuring resources. You can start mobilizing your internal staff, bringing in folks from your other operating companies if you have them, working with your contractors, both blue sky and storm contractors, to bring in what's needed. And in a large event, you go the mutual assistance route through your RMAG. And having tools to expedite these processes can save valuable time and money. And again, this is where ARCOS comes in. So most of you are familiar with our platform, that it presents a variety of different automated options to acquire resources. So call out's probably the main one there, where you can quickly mobilize your internal resources. RA Lite allows you is a web-based portal that accelerates your ability to request resources from your established network of contractors. So you can put out a single request to multiple contractors that you've worked with before, who kind of know the crew template that you've used, the format that you're requesting it, and it's just a lot easier than getting on the phone and calling them up individually. And then there's another new product, Resource Assist Lite, which ARCOS is also making available to all customers with no additional fees. And that enables you to facilitate a roster exchange with responders that you've never worked with before. And this is especially useful with utility-to-utility requests during mutual assistance. So the main takeaway of all three of these modes of acquiring resources is they really move away from the traditional emailing spreadsheets back and forth by creating a web-based portal where this information is shared and exchanged. So to achieve one of the objectives that we previously discussed, which was acquiring the right number of resources and getting them to work quickly and efficiently, the next step is actually to normalize or consolidate everything that you're acquiring into a coherent platform, which in this case is ARCOS Crew Manager. So that way they kind of move from the spreadsheets, the whiteboards, into a system where they can be effectively utilized. And by automating this process of allowing call out and Resource Assist and RA Lite, which are originated from Planner, to feed in directly into Crew Manager, ARCOS eliminates a lot of the traditional bottlenecks that are associated with loading rosters, ultimately allowing crews to get to work faster. Next slide, please. So now, with all the data ultimately loaded into Crew Manager, that's where you can really get the crews to work by quickly identifying which crews and vehicles are available and ready for work, then assigning, managing, and tracking those resources. Crew Manager has a full lodging and logistics support, everything from setting up hotel rooms, assigning the hotel rooms, setting up staging sites, planning for meal delivery. That can all be done within Crew Manager once the crews are loaded in. And then obviously, like any important system, the ability to run reports and dashboards so that this information can be shared with the various stakeholders. So that's a quick summary where I just wanted to talk about how to manage the difficult process of resource planning, acquisition, and management, and to give some insight on how ARCOS provides a comprehensive solution that solves what's essentially some of the industry's toughest challenges, helping you get the right resources and helping you get enough of them deploying them to the right place at the right time, and tracking the results. So ultimately, getting the crews to work quickly and efficiently all contributes to a successful restoration event. So in closing, as ARCOS, as we continue to strive to enhance our solutions, I wanted to end with providing a peek into some of the different things that we have in the works. So we've talked about getting crews into Crew Manager, automating it through call out RA and RA Lite. So just generally improving that data import functionality into Crew Manager is something that we'll be working on. Reusing existing crews, updating rosters once it's already been loaded to just make that a little bit more intuitive and easier. Another piece that we're working on is something internally we're calling convoys to crews. That includes our SMART application, which is our mutual assistance resource tracker. Basically, what it is, it's going to be integration between SMART and Crew Manager, where the convoys that you're tracking in SMART can be broken down into who's logged into the SMART application. Those become resources in Crew Manager that can be assigned to a crew. So it allows you to transition from tracking the larger convoys while they're on their way to your property to tracking the individual crews on the map that were set up in Crew Manager. The next one in our theme of resource sharing is to provide the ability to leverage ARCOS data to fill resource requests. And this is especially important when we're talking about utility to utility requests. So if you're an ARCOS customer and you get a mutual assistance request from another ARCOS customer, you can actually fill that request by leveraging the data that you have in ARCOS. We're going to start with leveraging data that you have in Crew Manager, but then expand that to the ARCOS schedule database as well, which leads towards our next big piece, which is cross schema resource sharing, and that involves creating a common language. We kind of look at it as a playbook where, since Crew Manager and ARCOS is so configurable where you can set up all your own attributes with different attribute values, to come up with some common values as well as a mapping utility that allows, utility A calls it X, utility Z calls it Y. How do we get that to map up? So that way, a single ARCOS customer can share data with multiple other ARCOS customers without having to jump through a lot of hoops in terms of reformatting the data. So that's a pretty heavy lift, because really what we want to do is become the fundamental resource sharing platform across the industry. Since we're already working with so many of the main customers, we feel we can add a lot of value to our customers in the industry as well by pursuing this strategy. Just a couple other smaller ones. We'll be introducing some time-based attributes with formulas for Crew Manager. So just by making date-time attributes a standard format, you could do a lot of cool things. You can compare an ETA to a point in time. You can compare an estimated time of arrival to an actual time of arrival to see how good your data is. So by being able to compare two different date time values and getting a resulting value, some of the customers will be able to do a lot of really cool analytics with that type of data. And then finally, I shared the resource planning functionality. That's all brand new, and we already have some additional enhancements in the works around that. Some of it's dealing with estimated arrival times, being able to pass those into Crew Manager as well for those stick crews, and integration with RA, Resource Assistant, RA Lite, to assist in populating the commitment portions of the resource planner process. So that's pretty much everything for me. I just wanted to thank everyone again for their time today. Hopefully you found this insight from the ARCOS product team helpful. And now I'll turn it back over to Jenna.
Thanks, Jason. So what we're going to do now is, first of all, thank you for your participation in the roundtable this afternoon. A great discussion filled with really good pointers and knowledge sharing. Right now, I'd like to open it up for questions. If you have questions for Jason or questions for each other, happy to facilitate that. We have a few extra minutes to do questions. So if anyone has a question for Jason or me or another person who's online today, just let me know.
Hey, Jason, it's Jeff. I actually do have a question. Did you say that now we have event awareness, that whole event functionality is there for everyone to be able to add an event and therefore use the resource planner and the resource assist light?
That is correct.
Okay. I had the event thing and I just signed on today. My event tab is gone.
Take a note.
So I don't want to take it up now, but maybe afterwards. I don't know where it went. And I don't see it in my system admin because I'm an admin. So it's not like I took away rights from myself. So.
Okay. I'll take a note on that, Jeff, and send it to support and make sure everything's
okay
to be.
Yeah, I would say something like that sounds like a support issue. If you haven't had it turned on yet, it might be more of an account management area.
Oh no, it was there. It was there because I know that I was playing around and putting in incidents, and I'm putting in events. I have an event in there, but I can't add any because it doesn't even give me that tab. So Jenna, I can put in a thing. It's supposed to be there. So.
Okay. If you want to do that, fine. If you want me to, I'm more than happy to. So.
No, I got it. That's fine.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions for Jason? Mike, did this give you a good idea of what you were talking about before? He's still on? Okay. All right. Well, today we covered quite a bit. We talked about, top challenges for resource planning and acquisition. We looked at new functionality from ARCOS to help with that, and some examples of how to use the platform to gain that transparency that is a challenge. So before we go, I would like to give you an update on the ARCOS conference. So obviously, it's been a crazy year. This past year, we had to cancel the conference, move to some online, webinar sessions. But I did want to announce that the conference in 2021 is happening. Currently, we are planning a hybrid model, which is basically those of you that can drive or are allowed to travel can come in person in Florida. And then people who might be farther away or are still under those travel bans can attend virtually. It will be more than just Zoom. We're working on a virtual event platform so that you'll be able to interact with the people who are on site as well if you're going virtually. If you're in the Southeast and are able to drive there, obviously we are working with the hotel to make the experience as safe as absolutely possible and manage, of course, social distancing, moving things outside, and other safety precautions. And we have met with the Utility Steering Committee. We have updated the agenda from last year, keeping some sessions and including obviously some new topics that have come up in 2020, of which are many, as far as new things that you're challenged with. And so because of these factors, we've delayed opening the registration until November 1st. We're making sure we have that virtual platform in place. And of course, if there is another increase in cases or it's deemed unsafe, we'll go to 100% virtual, still the full agenda. We have full plans to move forward with the conference. So it won't be canceled, it'll just be modified, same dates. So thank you for your patience. And if you did register last year, and we will be sending codes probably by the end of this week or beginning of next week to those of you who received deferred passes. So, and lastly, we just want to thank you so much for attending today, sharing your knowledge. Hopefully we gave you a small way to share best practices with your peers. And if you have any questions or you're interested in seeing some of these solutions that were mentioned today, or networking with each other, reach out to me and I will either work with your account manager or connect you to another expert who is on the call today to make sure that happens. So thank you so much. Have a great day. Have a great rest of the week. Happy Halloween and stay safe. And we appreciate your participation. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Good seeing you all.
Yep. Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Jenna. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.